Okay, first let's do some stamping so we're all set to put our cards together. I want to show you how I got the shells to have a little bit of depth to them. So I am going to stamp one of the larger ones, and I'm going to use soft suede. Okay, so you can see the difference between the two, and they're both nice. Whoa. But I really liked that this one has dark and light tones in it. So to achieve that, I grabbed my blender pen. Now, blender pens are filled with like a glycerin type product. I'm not exactly sure what it is, but it's not water, and it kind of has the ability to smear things. And as you can see, one tip is kind of stained brown, the other one's kind of stained pink. That doesn't matter. You're not going to see, once you've kind of cleared the pen of the ink, you can use it for anything. I can go ahead and pick up in fact, let's do that. Let's pick up the pink side, and I'm not going to turn my shells pink. So you're going to just kind of, right after you stamp it, if it's too dry, you're not going to be able to do this, but you're just going to kind of smear that ink along. So you're not even adding more color. You could pick up a little bit of ink from the lid of your ink pad if you wanted to, but we don't have to. We're just going to add a little bit of tone, lighter tone, by just kind of going around and looking for the areas where you think you want to add a little bit more color, like so. And that's, that's optional. You don't have to do that. But I think it just kind of looks nice, looks a little more realistic, and adds some more depth. And then I did a similar thing with the sand dollar. So I went ahead and stamped it. Then, taking my blender pen again, I went ahead and just kind of smeared along the edges, just to kind of soften it a little bit, and then I kind of went in here and did the same, just to give it a little more depth. Now, sand dollars are kind of mostly white anyway. In fact, they're really white, but I thought this kind of softened it a little bit. And then in here where there would be, this is actually hollow, I wanted it to be even a little darker, so you can take a little bit of ink from inside your lid and, give a little shadow or something. There. So you can kind of play up your colors a little bit. And I like this blender pen for these types of techniques. And you can use it, again, once you kind of wipe all the colors off, you can move on to another color and use the same pen again and again. And they come in a pack of, oh goodness, I haven't bought them in so long, 3 or 2, I want to say 3. So then you've got 6 ends to use. It might be 2, so hopefully I'll look that up and add that to the video. Anyway, so that's how to get a little bit more depth with your images. Just kind of gives them a little something, something. Now this one I did completely different, so I'm going to do that one again with you. If I can find that stamp. I have stamps all over my desk today. It's amazing that I have gotten anything done. Here it is. Let's see if it's clean. Okay, so I took a color. I went with Blushing Bride. Okay, and then I inked it up, the whole thing. Okay, and then on my desk, I always have a sponge for brown because, sometimes it's nice to distress or antique an edge. So I took my brown sponge and I put some soft suede on it. And here I'm going to apply it to the shell. So that way it's easier to ink the whole thing up if you just stamp that Blushing Bride right on there. You could do Blushing Bride in parts, or Blushing Bride in you know, it's partly with the sponge in here. But this way I know that if I missed a spot, at least there's Blushing Bride on it by inking the entire thing up, so I didn't leave any of the image out. And then I'm putting a darker color on top. So you want to stamp with the lighter color all over and then add the darker color on top. And then if you carefully add some to the edges, you could do that too. Now you could do this with a marker too, but because this is one of those stamps that they call distinctive stamps. And what that means is that the image is made up of a tiny little dots to get those darks and lights, to get that saturated ink in the areas where there's not as much ink. So if you were to use markers on here, going back and forth with those markers on a distinctive stamp like this with those little dots, sometimes the ink can pool within those dots and then you don't get a nice image. It looks kind of weird sometimes. I mean, you can play around with it and you'll get a good one every once in a while. But so anyway, this way I've got the inside of my shell is Blushing Bride and the outside is soft suede, and it looks nice. I did a decent job with that. If I had tried to do that with markers, it would not have turned out as nicely as that. Okay, I had to put those in the middle because I wanted to take a still photo for the blog. Okay, now if you want to go back in and do a little bit with your blender pens, you could. I don't really think it's necessary. We've got enough going on here. Anyway, I think that looks really nice. I think those shells have a nice look to them. So I'm going to cut those out on fast forward, and then we're going to show you the fun water techniques. Okay, here's some I made earlier. Sometimes I just stamp and I put all my little pieces in a plastic bag. Okay, so let's go ahead and do the non-stamped one first. So I'm using the paper itself. So I've got this sandy colored paper on the back of the shells. And I'm going to go ahead and just stick that down, kind of slightly left of center. Now you can just stick the water down as it is and use it and just tear one edge, but I wanted to have these white edges even more pronounced, and so I went ahead and I did some tearing. Now, if you're unaware, if you tear towards you, you're going to get the white from the middle of the paper. You know how paper has two sides. So, if this side, you don't want this speckled pinks and other colors coming through. You just want that white. So you want to tear towards you. If you tear away from you, you get kind of more of a cleaner edge. So let me show you what I mean by that. And actually the paper here, the waves were going that way, and I tried to turn it upside down. It just depends on how you cut the paper. So this time the waves are going to be coming from this direction. Not sure how I like that, but we'll see. So we're going to tear towards us to get that white. So I'm going to take it like this. Wait, I want this side. So we're going to tear it towards me. See how I'm bringing that paper towards me? Like that. See? And then I got that white edge. I'm going to do that again. I'm bringing it towards me. I'm getting that white, so it's like the waves breaking on the shore. And keep doing that. Going down the paper. Now I need to make this back into a rectangle, so I'm just going to glue them back together. So you're gonna, but this time you're gonna have to overlap them a little bit. And then you're going to move down and overlap them a bit. maybe I'll do one more because I want that to be a little longer. Okay, so when you do that, your edges are going to get all wonky because now it's no longer lined up. So then, I don't have that square. You need to trim your edges again. Let me first get a nice clean edge at the top. There we go. And now I need a clean edge at this side. There we go. So now my water's going down on the opposite side as here because I cut it kind of funny. Like this. It's just a little suggestion of water. And obviously you can make it longer, bigger, however you want to do it. And then I'm just going to stick some shells down. And one of these. I should go on top. Okay, and then I already did my greeting so that I would save some time. So we're going to go ahead and attach this in the top. And I wanted a little bit of linen behind. So I'm going to use a glue dot to put down my linen, and then you want to use some dimensionals to pop up your greeting. Like so. There, super cute, super easy. And again, if you wanted to do the inside, that'd be a nice place to add a little sand dollar. Okay, and then finally we've got this one where we're going to make our own water. So you're going to want to use Sahara sand and then find your Sahara sand ink. If you don't have Sahara sand, crumb cake would work as well. And then you're going to pick those stamps from the stamp set, the one that looks like little dots. This one. And then one of these little blurby ones. I think I went with this. No, I went with the smaller one. Okay, and you're just going to add dots, and you can just go crazy and get darks and lights by, you know, using it full strength, and then keep stamping. So a little bit of ink still on there is going to come off. You don't have to go all the way up because we're going to cover some of that with our water, so just kind of go most of the way up. Okay, and then you're going to do the same thing kind of with your blurby one, but I call it blurby, I don't know why. The little background thing on the edges a little bit, just kind of, because you know where sand hits the water, it's kind of darker. Want to rough it up a little bit. So like, sometimes maybe go off a little bit so you don't have quite so dark on this one because it does keep more ink than those dots. So really dark on the edges is okay, but you don't want like a big dark circle right in the middle. A lot of it's going to get covered by your stamped shells, but just in case. Okay, so there you've got sand, and it's kind of rough texture. And then for our water, you're going to use your aqua painter again, your water painter, And this time you're going to use watercolor paper, or you can go back to your, what am I trying to say? Shimmery white. Okay. Now I don't need this whole thing, so I'm going to go ahead and trim it down. I'm going to go to 4, maybe 4 1/4. Okay, now this one is going to be in Seaside Spray. Let me clean my brush from the mint. To clean, you just have to squeeze the barrel to kind of like get the water flowing and just run it back and forth on a paper towel. I like to use the Stampin' Scrub since it's right here and I'm not wasting a lot of paper towels. And now my brush is clean. Now this needs a lot more ink, so I put a kind of a pool of Seaside Spray into my lid. You can also use a little paint palette or something if you have it. I'm just going to go ahead and dab some in here. Now, ink is not the same as watercolor paint. It's just not. It's just a different consistency, different something. So it doesn't all work exactly the same. And for some reason, Seaside Spray is not as smooth as some of our other colors. And sometimes even ink, the pigments in the ink can separate. You can, it's not always exactly the same. But you kind of use it in the same way. In this instance, you're going to get your paper a little bit wet. Get it ready for the ink. And you know what, I'm going to, at the bottom here where I know I'm going to tear it off, I'm going to show you what would happen if I didn't get the paper wet. So right down here it's totally dry. If I were to go in here with my, it just soaked right in and it's super dark right there. It's not a smooth transition. Whereas up here where I've got more water, of course now my water's dry, it's just going to be smoother when I add that ink. So you're going to just add your ink at the top and just get going towards the bottom. And if you want to do something where it's darker at the top and it's getting lighter at the bottom, you could do it however you want. So I'm going to try to lighten as I go down. Something about the Seaside Spray, it's like a little thicker for some reason. Not sure why. Something about the pigment. Anyway, so we're going to go down and you can go lighter, darker, however you want. And however many layers you put on top, that's going to make it darker or lighter. And you can hit this with your heat tool if you want. Okay, and I need this to be 3 3/4 wide, so let's trim it down, or yeah, 3 3/4 wide. And then I want to do my tearing again. So just to show you what I mean by the tearing, well, first here, let me do this tear towards me. I want to show that white, so I'm tearing towards me. I'm going to have like the breaking waves. But on this piece I'm going to show you by tearing away from me, see that it doesn't have that white. Now this part does because that went away. See what I'm saying? Anyway, you want the white. So you've got that breaking white breaking waves here, and then we're going to layer that on top of our Sahara sand. Now if you need to add a little more because you didn't go quite far enough, now is the time to do it. Okay, I accidentally used soft suede. I don't know if you caught that. Luckily it's just a tiny bit. All right, and I'm going to layer those. And then I thought it would be pretty to add a nice little white matte piece. I like when I get a nice clean edge when I'm watercoloring. So it's kind of, that's what it was reminding me of, is my taped off white edge when I do a watercolor painting. Oh, that's just so peaceful all by itself. I'm going to add our little shells. And again, you can use dimensionals or you can do it flat. I just went all flat on this one. I don't know why. I think it's because it was for swaps and I had to mail so many, and I just went with flat. Except for on my, maybe one more little one, or maybe I'll save that. One more little one. There. Okay, and again, I already did my label. Now on this one, I did that pulling apart of the linen thread that's braided. On this one, I'm just going to do a linen thread bow for simplicity's sake. Here we go. And there is that version. And again, do something on the inside. I did the different seashell that I didn't use on the outside. And there. I hope you enjoyed the Sand and Sea Suite. Friends Are Like Seashells is the name of the stamp and the bundle. You might want to check out. You've got the dies, you've got the embossing folder, and that paper is gorgeous. There is just so much here that this video is really long. I'm sorry about that. But I really wanted to show you the different ways to use the dies, the embossing folder. I wanted to show off that paper is gorgeous, and it's just such a fun suite. I just didn't want to miss anything in it, and I hope you like it as much as I do. I'm going to have all this up at my blog, and you'll be able to see these in stills, so you don't have to forward and fast forward and rewind. I'm missing one with that pretty ribbon. Don't know where it went, but anyway, I'll find it and take a picture of it for my blog. And thank you so much for watching. I hope that you'll come back again. Bye.